Hey there, guys. So I want to thank you for joining today's live stream as always. I really appreciate you guys who share the live stream and who join in on it. As always, I do want to mention that I'll always repost these to YouTube as well as they will be posted onto the Facebook group here. So you can always rewatch those. They are a little bit more easily accessible if you go to YouTube, but I do always sort of archive these to allow you to watch them if you do miss them. I know we all can get busy and, different time frames may not work for other people. So I try to make these accessible even if you're not able to attend them. But I really want to thank you guys for joining these and checking these out and watching these. So all that I want, my main thing as far as what I do here on these Wednesday midweek live streams is to give you guys value on many different aspects as it relates to fitness, nutrition, or just wellness overall in general. That's my main reasoning why I do these live streams is to sort of basically show a little bit of my expertise in what I know as a certified personal trainer. So that's what I want to do with these is to give you guys information on different things outside of what you would normally hear about when it comes to fitness. Of course, I will talk about topics that are more related to things that you have heard, but I do try to go into different areas that are not touched as often when it comes to talking about various, fitness goals, such as fitness metrics, what I'm talking about today. It's not a topic that's typically, discussed as often, but it is an important topic. So for today, of course, is the topic of tracking your fitness metrics, why you should track your fitness metrics. And I'm going to go through various different things. Some of these you may have heard of, some of these you may have not, but I'm going to sort of go through these and sort of discuss these and share with you guys different types of metrics and why you should keep track of certain metrics. So, what exactly are metrics? And when we're talking about metrics, we're primarily focusing on fitness, of course. So metrics provide an objective way to measure your progress instead of relying solely on subjective feelings or the number on the scale. Metrics allow you to see concrete improvements or areas that need work. This can help you stay motivated and focused on your goals. So there are numerous fitness metrics and measurements used to assess various aspects of an individual's physical health and fitness level. So, why should you specifically track these metrics? Metrics, of course, provide an objective way to measure your progress. Instead of relying solely on your subjective feelings that are on a scale, they're going to help you see those concrete improvements. So, by tracking metrics over time, you can identify trends in your fitness journey. Are you making steady progress or have you plateaued? Are there specific factors like diet or sleep that seem to influence your metrics positively or negatively? And this information, when you see this information as relates to metrics, can help you make informed adjustments to your routine. Now, I've accidentally sort of messed up this slide, but you sort of get the idea of what sort of it means to sort of track your metrics. So it's just basically giving you an overview of how you are progressing, sort of seeing if there's any issues. A lot of times with the clients that I work with, they do keep track of their metrics. I do recommend them to keep track of their metrics. And the reason being is because you're going to see sort of a timeline of your progress versus just focusing on, particularly how much weight your current weight at the moment. You're only seeing that specific number. You're not seeing sort of your progression, if that makes sense. So just to focus solely on one weight measurement is not enough to see how you're progressing through something. You've got to be able to track that over time, tracking maybe your heart rate, your steps, doing body measurements, which I'm going to sort of discuss here in just a second. But The reason for tracking metrics is because you're going to see progression. I've talked about progression over and over, but that's the reason being is that you're going to see that progress over time versus just, something that's just one specific number at a set date, and you don't know why you've gained weight, you don't know why you've lost weight, so that specific number doesn't hold as much, merit as to when you're tracking progress over time. So an example of different types of fitness metrics can include body composition. This metric assesses the proportion of fat, muscle, bone, and other tissues in the body. Methods for measuring body composition include door energy X-ray, DXA, bioelectrical impedance analysis, and skin fold capillars. So some of these, of course, are not easily accessible. However, skin fold measurements can be done. They are easily acceptable or accessible. Some of these may be done at the doctor. Again, this is another way that you can use to sort of keep track of your progress as well. Even though it's not easily accessible, it can be used. The skin fold method is a really good measurement as far as it relates to, how much fat you have, sort of your muscle mass, things of that nature. Waist to hip ratio is an easier method that you can use. This method, of course, is going to use measuring tape. So WHR, or waist to hip ratio, I've got ration on there. It's ratio. And I get to a point where I'm like typing a lot of this stuff fast and I don't pay attention to some of the stuff, or it autocorrects. And that's probably what happens. But some of this, I apologize for some of that, because sometimes I get to where I'm doing a ton of different stuff, and then, you know, I just kind of get to where I don't even pay attention to it. I'm looking over everything, and then I just kind of slide over stuff. But WHR means waist to hip ratio. So, waist to hip ratio measures the ratio of waist circumference to hip circumference. It can help assess the distribution of fat in the body and is associated with various health risks. Resting heart rate, or RHR, is the number of heartbeats per minute. When the body is at rest, the lower RHR is often associated with better cardiovascular fitness. I actually did a post that sort of discusses a little bit about heart rate and how it can sort of determine how your current fitness level is at, whether you need more cardio into your current routine or you need less. That can all be determined based on heart rate. That's another really cool metric that you can keep track of, is heart rate, and that has a lot of benefits to keeping track of, cardio that you do in your workout routine. Waist hip ratio, of course, is going to be more focused on that body fat. Sort of, it is a predictor of a lot of different health risks, obesity, things of that nature. That's primarily what waist to hip ratio is going to help with. So, more metrics for various goals. So, VO2 max is maximum oxygen consumption. It is a measure of the body's ability to transport and use oxygen during exercise. It's considered an indicator of aerobic fitness. Circumference measurements, and this sort of goes back into, somewhat as it relates to the waist to hip ratio. This is more measuring different parts of the body. This is something I usually sort of recommend to the clients that I work with. I try to tell them, when they get started with the program, to sort of keep track of their measurements. Of course, it's not necessarily required, but again, going back to that, it is beneficial when you have, evidence over time to see your progression. So, measuring the circumference of specific body parts such as chest, waist, hips, arms, and legs can help track changes in muscle or fat mass over time. Skin fold measurements, which is related to what I just discussed, is using capillars, can be used to measure the thickness of skin folds at various locations on the body, which estimates body fat percentage. Again, these are a little bit more accessible than some of the other ones. The skin fold measurements is pretty much under the same umbrella as body composition. However, relating it to the other methods as it relates to body composition, it is easily more accessible than some of the other methods, such as the bioelectrical impedance analysis. Those are more done outside of just the average home setting, more done at the doctor, things of that nature. So just keep in mind some of these, again, are more easily accessible than others. So a downside as it relates to fitness metrics. So we've sort of talked about a lot of the positives, a lot of the different methods that you can try and that you can keep track of over time. What are some of the downsides? So, incomplete assessment. So, fitness metrics often focus on specific aspects of fitness, such as cardiovascular endurance, muscular strength, flexibility, or body composition. Relying on a single metric may provide an incomplete picture of overall fitness. People may neglect other important aspects of their health and fitness that are not easily quantified. So, basically, what that means is that you need to keep track of multiple metrics, basically. So just relying specifically on your heart rate, relying specifically on your steps, relying specifically on your weight is not enough to sort of see your overall progression. So if you're focusing on one aspect, if you're just focusing on your heart rate, if you're just focusing on specifically your steps, then you're not getting the full picture of your journey overall. And that's something that you need to keep in mind, that just focusing on one aspect is not enough to sort of keep track of your overall fitness goal and your health at the moment. Because a lot of these are beneficial to noticing, different aspects of your health as well. So another thing is obsession of training. So constantly tracking and aiming to improve fitness metrics can lead to an obsession with numbers. This can result in overtraining, injury, and burnout as individuals push themselves too hard to achieve better metrics without giving their bodies adequate rest and recovery. Now, I can relate to this in a lot of ways because I have been a person where I've constantly, especially when it comes to weight, because I've been one to keep track of my weight over a couple months. And what I notice sometimes is that I do sort of get into that mindset where I'm like, I don't understand why, I'm not gaining enough weight, because my goal is primarily focused on muscle gain. So of course gaining weight is a big thing with me. And sometimes I don't understand why I'm not gaining weight. But another thing is, I have to keep into considerations what are the things that I've not been doing correctly. But going back to this, as the obsession of everything, you need to sort of just not worry so much about your metrics. It's important to be, have the information and to know, but don't get so obsessed over them and not give your body the amount of rest that it needs. Especially if you're focusing on muscle gain, your body needs that rest and recovery. And if it's not getting it, then, you're not going to reach that goal. Another thing is setting over ambitious goals when it comes to fitness metrics. So, setting overly ambitious goals based on fitness metrics can be demotivating when progress is slower than expected. Unrealistic expectations can lead to frustration, disappointment, and even abandonment of fitness routines. So, going to this, talking about, setting ambitious goals, this sort of goes back into what I've discussed previously when I talk about SMART goals, and I've talked about SMART goals over and over again because it is the basis and the blueprint for how you should create your goals. So again, touching again on SMART goals, what that means is you want your goal to be specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. So you want to have your goal based on that. Now, when you're talking about fitness metrics, of course, when you are progressing with your tracking your fitness metrics, whether it be your weight, resting heart rate or anything like that, it's going to sort of give you the motivation to go above and beyond. But you still need to sort of slow down, and you don't need to be overly ambitious. Just because you are making progress, you do need to still gradually progress. You don't need to just jump into something. This can go with like, when you're wanting to lift a certain weight, or you're wanting to build strength to a certain extent to where you can lift this weight. Don't just immediately think that you can do it. Still go through the gradual progression. Just because you've gained that strength and you feel like you've gained enough strength, don't just jump into something, sort of still progress properly, and just don't feel, even if you can't lift that or you've not reached that goal that you're wanting to do, don't feel discouraged. You can still get there. It's just not going to be as fast as you think it is. You just have to still stay consistent with it, and you can still get there. Another thing is social comparison. So, comparing one's fitness metrics to those of others can lead to unhealthy competition and self esteem issues. Everyone's fitness journey is unique, and comparing yourself to others may not be productive or fair. So, I mean, this is pretty much self explanatory. Your numbers may not match somebody else's. Your progress is not going to be exactly like somebody else's. Everybody's on their own specific journey. So, again, just keep in mind that it's not a linear path. It's going to have its ups and downs, and no matter what your goal is, nobody is going to get there at the same time. Everybody's got different numbers, everybody's got a different weight, different heart rate. A lot of things are completely different, and that's okay. Everybody's on their own path. They have their own way of progressing with different things, like maybe your age, maybe you have different health risks, and maybe your weight is completely different. There's different factors that play into how long it takes you to get to a goal. And don't rely solely on those metrics of somebody else's. Don't compare somebody else's progression versus yours, because you are making progress. It's just meant not be in the same way that somebody else is. Another thing is neglecting holistic health. So, focusing solely on fitness metrics may lead to neglecting other aspects of health, such as mental well being, stress management, sleep, and nutrition. True health and wellness encompass a wide range of factors beyond physical health. You want to, of course, be aware not only of your physical health, but your mental well being, any stress that you're having in your life, being able to have the proper amount of sleep. You want to be aware of all of those. Don't just focus solely on your physical health. Be aware that your body needs rest. Be aware of any, mental health issues you're having. If you're having stress, extreme stress over various things in your life, try to slow down if it becomes an obsession, basically. Variation and fluctuation. So, fitness and metrics can fluctuate for various reasons, including daily fluctuations in hydration, sleep, and nutrition. So, relying too heavily on these metrics can lead to frustration when there are natural variations that may not necessarily reflect a decline in fitness. So, this can kind of happen when it comes to measuring just your body weight. If you go on a scale, weight fluctuates slightly throughout the day. So, you can't rely solely, on that specific metric. If it changes different in different ways from day to day, if your weight may be slightly higher, slightly lower, that doesn't really mean that you're not progressing. It's just there are just natural fluctuations with different aspects of our body that you just have to keep in mind, that we're not, things are not going to be perfectly aligned all the time, and that things are going to fluctuate. So sort of keep that in mind as well, that that's not necessarily saying that you're not progressing in the proper way, or you're not getting towards your goal. Alrighty. So that's pretty much all I have for you guys today. I hope that you found this helpful. I try to, of course, give you guys topics that are unique, however, that give you some information as it relates to anything fitness and health related. But if you have any questions, feel free to give me a text or call, of course, and you can email here with what I've provided here on screen. These will always be there for you guys. If you have any questions, you have any feedback, I'm always open to any of those, and I try to get back to anybody who has those questions, because I do want to help you guys out in any way that I can. That is my goal, of course, as a online fitness coach. So thank you guys for taking the time to watch this. I really hope that you found it valuable. I apologize for some of the issues with the PowerPoint, where I've had some duplicated stuff and some stuff that wasn't spelled right. So That's my fault. And sometimes I go so fast with, you know, creating a lot of content that I just sort of overstep and sort of overlook certain things, I guess just to say. So that's the reason why I do that sometimes, but I'm working on bettering that, and I need to proofread those more when I go through them. So, but again, thank you guys for taking the time to watch these. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. But again, I do want to mention that I do have another live stream coming next week. I do have it posted. I have the event posted, and it'll be about mind body connection. It's going to be a little bit of more in depth topic on how your mind and body sort of connects to fitness and everything. So it is a unique topic, but I'm going to sort of dive into it, give you guys some good information. So again, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys in the next live stream next week.